this video, we're going to do the basic disassembly, reassembly, and maintenance for the Gryphon paintball marker. We're first going to start off by removing our barrel. We'll then move on to removing the feed neck. From there, we'll flip it over to the opposite side and start removing our receiver screws. You're going to want to also remove the receiver screws for the front grip and the grip frame. Go ahead and set those off to the side. From there, you should be able to remove your receiver. I usually like to leave all the receiver screws in. You have one receiver screw that's a little bit longer, and that sits right above the grip frame. So we'll just go ahead and leave that in place. We'll set that off to the side. We'll remove our linkage arm, and then we'll remove our other receiver half. From there, we'll go ahead and we'll remove our barrel adapter. And then we'll also remove our screw for our tank adapter. And then switching back to our Phillips, we'll remove the rest of the receiver. Go ahead and pull our receiver half off. And you can kind of see some of the parts stuck to the receiver half here on the opposite side. Go ahead and remove those. The only thing I'm going to leave is the safety button. So we'll go ahead and put that back over there. And we've got our trigger link, and our trigger pin. I'll kind of show you how that goes back in here in a minute. We'll first go over kind of our parts here, our real quick parts identification. You have your front bolt, your ball latch or your ball detent. You can kind of see how the ramp with the open end is facing towards the barrel. You always want to make sure it's facing that direction. You have your power tube and your valve assembly. You have your internal gas line, which I'll kind of show you that here. Go ahead and remove our gas line. You have your tank adapter. This tank adapter has an internal O-ring here that seals the gas line. If you have a leak coming from that area, you hear it kind of coming around from the gas line or the grip frame area, you might want to check that O-ring on the inside of the tank adapter. Unless you hear it coming out of this hole right here. If it's coming out of the small port hole on the side of the tank adapter, it's more than likely just a tank O-ring. Then you have your internal gas line. And it's kind of hard to see, but on the inside of this gas line nut, there's a O-ring to help seal that internal gas line. So if you hear some leaking coming around from the trigger area, it could possibly be that O-ring on the inside of the gas line nut. So we'll go ahead, we'll put our gas line back in and put our tank adapter back on. And then from there, like I said earlier, we had some parts stick to the other half of the receiver, which was our trigger pin, our trigger, and our trigger spring, along with the trigger link. So you have your trigger link, and then your trigger assembly, which are all connected by this linkage arm, the trigger link. And then you have the 4 pins. Silver pins. 2 of them are for the trigger assembly, 2 of them are for the sear, and then you have one that sits by itself, that's for the sear pin. It's black because it's a steel hardened pin, so it's a lot stronger than the rest, so you always want to make sure you get that one in place. From there you have your rear bolt, your drive spring with a guide pin inserted into the drive spring, and then you have this free floating O-ring, which is your buffer O-ring. It free floats in the back. That's actually the way it's designed. It helps absorb the recoil of the gun when you shoot it. As far as basic maintenance goes, I just go through and just kind of clean everything up, wipe off any kind of paint, dirt, or debris. And then as far as the oiling goes, there's only really one lubrication point, which is your rear bolt. You want to make sure that you get the rear bolt and the rear bolt O-ring with some lubricant, just like what comes in the package, just paintball gun oil. Put a couple drops there, a couple drops on the drive spring and guide pin, and that's pretty much it for the lubrication. So we'll go ahead, we'll reassemble our marker, take the left half and drop that back on, and then from there we will tighten down our receiver screws. And we'll go ahead, we'll put our barrel adapter back on. And then at this point we'll put our screw that holds our tank adapter in place back in. And then I'll go ahead and drop the feed neck back on. And then from there we'll switch back to our Phillips head bit. And we'll go ahead and put our front grip screw and our grip frame screw back in place. And then from there we'll go ahead and put our linkage arm back in place. Now you'll see there's a hole in the front bolt. There's also a small hole in the rear bolt. You want to make sure that you get that linkage arm into the front bolt and the rear bolt. And then just to kind of check that, you can pull on your cocking handle and see that they both move together. So we have that in place correctly. Now we'll go ahead, we'll put our receiver half back on. And we'll go ahead and put the other half back on as well. Make sure we get our screws back in place. Just go ahead and tighten these back down. And from there we'll go ahead and reinstall our barrel. Go ahead and check everything. And that is the basic disassembly, reassembly, and maintenance on the Gryphon paintball marker.